Wisp Sports Radio, the voice of women in sport.
Welcome to Season 1, Episode 11 of the WeCOACH Podcast on Wisp Sports. Every 2 weeks, we sit down with some of the best and brightest women coaches, leaders, and industry experts in the world of sports for fun and inspiring conversations. I'm your host, Megan Kahn, Executive Director of WeCOACH. This podcast is a co-production of WeCOACH and Wisp Sports. WeCOACH has become the premier nonprofit committed to recruiting, advancing, and retaining women coaches of all sports and levels. Through our programming, resources, and engaged community, we are bringing hope and inspiration to an entire landscape for female coaches. Today's guest, Heather Olmstead, is the current head women's volleyball coach at BYU. Coming off an appearance in the 2018 NCAA Women's Volleyball Final Four, she was also named the AVCA Division I Coach of the Year. Let's hear what she has to say. Welcome, Heather. Thanks so much for being here on the WeCOACH Podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Let me start by saying congratulations on a fantastic season.
Thank you. It was a fun ride. We really enjoyed it, so thank you.
I bet you did. We're going to dive into it here in just a minute. My guess is we have an entire community of listeners that maybe lived under a rock and don't know your coaching background or maybe didn't follow volleyball as closely as some of us did this year. I'd like to start with having you share a little bit about your coaching journey and get people up to speed.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm from Santa Barbara, California. I grew up on the beaches of California. I've got 7 kids in my family, 6 siblings. We all played volleyball, high school. 4 of us played collegiate volleyball. So I was able to go to Utah State and play there for 4 years. Loved my experience and was able to have the opportunity to go to Croatia and play a little bit of professional volleyball over there. And when that was done, about half a season, I got the opportunity to coach back at my alma mater at Utah State. And so I took that opportunity. I was super young, just out of college, and didn't really know I wanted to coach. Had I known I was going to be a coach, I would have probably got a teaching degree. Didn't know until I was given the opportunity and thought it was a great chance to be around volleyball, that the sport I loved and the passion that I had for volleyball, and quickly realized at Utah State that I had a passion for teaching and for inspiring young women. And I went from there, Utah State to Utah, and from Utah to BYU. And that brought me here in 2011 to coach with my brother. So that's kind of a quick update on how I got where I am, but that's kind of the overview of it.
That is quick, and it was quite successful along the way. Let me add that. Being a twin myself, I have to ask how tired you get of the sibling comparison.
With my twin?
Yes.
I enjoy it because it gives me an opportunity to talk about her and speak about our relationship. The funniest thing is just what's it like to be a twin, and it's like, well, what's it like not to be a twin? That's all I know. And so that's the funniest question we get, and people are like, oh, I guess that's true. So we're super close. We're best friends, and we grew up playing sand together, and she was an outside and I was an opposite. So we just had a great childhood. We had 6 girls in our family, 1 boy, my brother Sean, and just had a wonderful childhood with competition, a lot of volleyball, and the twin thing is just, a special bond, and it's pretty cool. As you know, being a twin, it's pretty incredible to have that bond with somebody.
Absolutely. And as we've seen, she's probably your biggest cheerleader.
Yeah, she enjoys following our team and our whole family. They just get so hyped up. They've not unfortunately, but for my parents, they get 8 months of, from women's season to men to a 4-month break over the summer back to women. So they're pretty exhausted at the end of May when my brother's season's over.
Absolutely. Let's talk about your brother. What was that like to come to BYU, work with Sean, and then when he jumped out and you ended up jumping into that head role?
Yeah, that was a wonderful opportunity for me in 2011. I'd spent 5 years at Utah learning from Beth Lanier, had a wonderful experience there. And the opportunity to come learn from Sean at BYU in 2011 was something I couldn't pass up. And I believed in his vision, and we've talked about what he saw in BYU and the potential here. And I knew that. I knew a lot of the kids he was getting. And we together, and his vision to win a national championship, said we can do this. And so I jumped right in, and we built a team that was able to go to the finals in 2014 and play for a national championship. And to see that just play out for those young women and for Sean was an absolute dream. And to be able to do it together was unbelievable.
Yeah, I bet with him still being on campus, probably not far down the hall from you, do you guys still talk a lot of strategy, or is volleyball off limits now?
Yeah, no, it's great. They're right above us. His office is right above mine, and they practice after us. Right now, we go first and they go second. So we have a lot of opportunity to watch each other's teams and know his players, and he knows our players. And so we're able to chat about the seasons. And of course, we're both busy in our own ways. And so it's a little obviously different now and not spending time together like we were coaching together. But it's been an awesome opportunity for both of us.
I love it. It's such a great story for volleyball and especially for your BYU community.
Yeah, and it was, taking over, I didn't really touch on that, but it was something that, was very unexpected, the switch in 2015 and him going to the men's and him being able to really dive into that. And he played for the men's program here and won a couple national championships. And, it was something that it was unexpected on my end. I never expected him to really leave the women's program. So I never expected to have the opportunity to coach the women here as a head coach. So it was very unexpected. But I support him, and it's been really neat to learn and to grow myself, being a head coach for these past 4 seasons.
Absolutely. You're doing impressive things there and competing shoulder to shoulder with a lot of the Power 5 clubs across the country. If you look at your opponents in this year's Final Four, you got Nebraska, Illinois, Stanford, and then BYU. How would you describe your coaching philosophy and being able to elevate your program and sustain it at the level as all the other Power 5s?
Yeah, I think my coaching philosophy is that we want to be great. If we want to be great in anything in life, we have to understand that it's not just going to happen, by chance. It takes a lot of focus, desire, determination, a lot of self-belief, confidence, and energy, among other things that you're going to put into being a high-performing human being, but that you can do anything you want in life. And so I'm trying to inspire these young women to understand that they can do whatever they want. They can get whatever they want if they believe and they go after it. And so being a learner is a big deal, part of my coaching philosophy, and being open to growth and understanding that if you can't do something, it's just not yet. You're going to be able to do it if you put the time in and you have a learner growth mindset. And staying committed to the process is crucial, and that commitment is really, at some point, you're going to have success with it because it's just the way the world works. And so I kind of sum it up that way.
Yeah, so that's interesting. I think about when you're going out and recruiting, you're sitting in living rooms across the country, and certainly you've had success now, which backs this up. But how do you know if someone's going to make a good fit for BYU then?
Yeah, I think we have a pretty niche recruiting bubble, and that happens to be that we are owned and operated at BYU by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So we are looking for the best players that are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and we'd love to supplement that with some non-members who are not members of our religion, because we do accept anyone at BYU, and we really want high-performing individuals that want to be great spiritually, academically, athletically, and then socially. And so as we go through the recruiting process, we're able to have those conversations, meet families, spend time together, have them come to camp, and we're able to sift through the recruiting that way and find kids that fit our culture, that want those 4 areas to be high performing in their life. And it's worked out really well for us.
So you've already mentioned the word high performing a number of times. I kind of want to talk about that and how you've melded those. It sounds like they're very highly motivated. So how have you melded that into a winning team culture?
Yeah, I think, it's a lot of communication with the players and our staff, lots of talking and lots of doing. And so we feel like getting better is in the doing and the process of doing. And so we've wanted to create this opportunity where our players feel safe in the gym, where they can be themselves and they can try new things, and they can get pushed to their limit, to where they're uncomfortable, but still feeling like they're progressing. And we want to create opportunities for young women to compete and teach them that it's okay to be competitive, and teach them that it's okay to want something for yourself. But we also need to be able to meld that with what the team and what's best for the team and how that helps the team goals. But we also want to teach them that in the end, the competition is really just with yourself and not with your teammates or even the team across the net. Our quest here at BYU is to see how good you can be in the 4 or 5 years that we get you here. And that's all inclusive as a person, not just a volleyball player. But we feel when our kids have their priorities in the right place, and for us, they're going to be a little bit different than other places with spiritual, academics, volleyball, and then social. They're going to flourish and just absolutely take off. And we saw that this year with many of our players who had fantastic seasons, and obviously the team as a whole as well.
Yeah, and you as well. Congratulations on your AVCA Coach of the Year honor. Yeah, you're welcome. I was actually in the banquet there to see you receive that award, and as an organization which represents female coaches, our table was cheering very loudly.
Well, thank you very much. It was a credit to our team and our staff and our support at BYU. Really, the players are the magic, and I really hope people understand how special of a group we had this year, the hard work they put into it. Of course, we worked hard as a staff. I'm not taking anything away from me or our staff, but the magic is in the players and the way that they're able to execute the skills on the court. And they just did a fabulous job, in that run up to the Final Four with a lot of adversity. It was pretty cool to see.
They did. And you came out in the season and already struck some waves across the country when you beat Stafford. I think it was back in August.
Yep. That was a great match. Opportunity to play Kevin Hambley and his squad here, and the chance for us to be matched up with the best, the best team in the country at the time and best players, some of them. And it was such an electrifying atmosphere. The community came out full force, and they just stayed the rest of the season. They never looked back. They stuck with us for every other home match all the way through to the Final Four, and Stafford really kicked it off.
Mm-hmm. Looking back, outside of maybe just coming up a little bit short, would you go back and change anything?
Oh gosh, good question. That's a good question. Yes, I would in the match. Some of my coaching decisions and some of the things that played out in the match. Is that what you're referring to? As far as the way the season played out, I wouldn't change the adversity and the highs and the lows. It's an absolute ride. You ride the wave when you're playing volleyball or any sport. There's highs and there's lows, and the team that's able to just grind through and have that grit and determination and actually, the resiliency with the good and the bad is going to be successful. And we were able to make it work this year. So I'd say no, as a whole the season, I'd say yeah. As far as my job coaching that semifinal match against Stafford, absolutely, I'd like to do some things differently.
If only we could go back and get a second shot at it, right?
Totally.
And last year was a big year because you had been 6 straight Sweet 16s, and then you got past the hump last year.
Yeah, we had a group of seniors that were determined. They talked about wanting more, and really had been kind of the every year thing. Hey, we want more, and we want a little bit more. And we were grateful for the opportunity we had to get to those Sweet 16s, but there was just something different about this group and the look in their eyes, and led by Ronnie Jones-Perry and Lindy Haddock and Mary Lake, McKenna Miller, and they just wanted more, and they weren't going to be denied. And so it was just pretty cool to be able to be with them through that journey and to see them grow and develop. And for those seniors, the 5 seniors, to get what they wanted. And of course we fell short of our goal, but we tell everybody that, recruits, our team, you don't know what's going to happen. We don't know the future. So you have to be okay to invest emotionally and physically in this end goal that may or may not happen. But it's what happens along that journey where we're going to learn about ourselves and each other, and it's going to be life-changing, and it was.
Which is fantastic to hear. So I want to know, because as women, we tend not to celebrate the small milestones enough. So after it was all said and done, even though you just came up a little bit short, did you and the team go back and celebrate?
Oh, absolutely. It's funny because, Megan, we were able to celebrate, and I understood what was happening. I don't know. I think the girls did as well as far as the magic that was happening that year. So we would talk about every win. We were super stoked to every match. We celebrated like it's super hard to win. And we didn't want to take any win for granted that we had. And we had a great season. And so every win we were able to reflect on it and talk about what we did well and maybe one thing we can do better. And then at the end, of course, the ending was bittersweet, but we were able to come back together and celebrate, our banquet and some other opportunities we've had to get together and really reflect on the season. And I think even it'll take some more time for these kids and the young women to reflect on what they did. I think that sometimes comes obviously with time and with stepping away from the game as the seniors will and move on to some other things. But we're celebrating the whole year and not wanting to take it for granted. And that was good for us because we did have some adversity come up at the end of the year. And I'm glad we were able to keep some perspective through that.
It's so refreshing to hear. And the 5 seniors certainly will have a little bit of a different reflection than those student athletes. You're back in your spring season. So now how do you go back to ground zero and reset those expectations?
Yeah, it's an every year thing. It's nothing new. You lose seniors every year. You lose All-Americans every year. Maybe not every team has All-Americans they lose. And so maybe it's a setter you're losing or a libero or an outside. So we have that opportunity every year to focus on what are we doing now? It's, we're living in the present. What are we made up? What is this team made up now as we've lost those kids and our incoming freshmen haven't got here either. Maybe some kids graduated early or joined, early mid-season, mid-semester. And so we're talking about this group and what this group wants to do. And we're actually just hitting the fundamentals pretty hard with, trying to make some changes and the opportunity to slow the teaching down. And we're not in competition and we can make those changes that we've asked them to make and then compete a little bit in our spring season. And so it's just a great time of year to see that improvement. And the girls understand that this is a lot of where the work is put in, and when we get back together in August, it's go time, and there's not as much time to work on things. You can fine tune some things and make some changes over the 4 months, and so it's just a great chance for us to spend some different time together this spring.
Which is always a welcome opportunity, I think, from a coaching perspective, is a welcome opportunity to be able to have a chance to kind of dig in on some of those fundamentals. Yeah,
absolutely. We're doing some different team activities. You've got off-campus things we can do and some more relaxing, and everybody sees people in a little different light, and the coaches are a little more relaxed, and we can take some deep breaths and really work on our relationships, which are always ongoing the whole year, but it's a really cool time of year.
I want to talk about those relationships. In your evolution as a coach, have you had to adjust or modify your coaching style at all to better meet today's student athletes?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's always hard to throw out that comment. I played at Utah State. It was a while ago now. And so say, kids are different now. And I don't really like taking that route because you always have to be able to adapt and adjust to whatever's happening in life. And so things are always going to change and grow and get better, hopefully, as far as the opportunities for social media and the opportunities kids have. So the answer is, yeah, I'm evolving just because I'm trying to find ways for me to get better. And it usually revolves around how can I be better for my student athletes? How can I serve them better? How can I love them more? And so these student athletes have different distractions these days than I did. So I'm able to learn about those distractions and help them and talk to them and really mentor them through how to still want that desire to be great and how to go get it with maybe some different things that I didn't have to deal with, cell phones and social media and things. And so, yeah, always adapting, and really it's listening to your student athletes and maybe talking to other coaches and figuring out, how they're adapting as we're always getting older as coaches, and the student athletes are always staying the same age, and they just seem like they're younger and younger every year. And so that's very, intricate part of coaching. How are you going to handle that? And it's been fun to navigate through that.
And you talk about that growth mindset, and even this is a great example of it, in that willingness and eagerness to always learn. Are there concrete examples you do to continue growing and learning as a coach?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I'm always curious about what the great teachers, whatever sport, maybe it's a business, are doing to lead their groups and their teams. And I'm trying to figure out what they're doing well and how I can implement that in some of my teaching methods here. So I've had some opportunities to get into some other coaches' gyms, people that I admire, that I look up to that I think do a really good job. And I've been able to go into their gyms and learn from them, and they've opened up their gym to me. And I try to take that opportunity every year, once a year, to go somewhere that I've always wanted to go, or somewhere that I don't think I would normally go, that's maybe a little more unorthodox or outside the box for me, and see what I can learn from their coaching style and methods, and get better. And again, it's not always a volleyball. It's sometimes, businesses or people I admire that are outside of volleyball or sport, to help me evolve. I've been involved with USA Volleyball, and those opportunities to be around Coach Cry and his staff and to learn from them are unbelievable opportunities for me. And I've learned and grown from every chance I've gotten to be in the gym with them. And that's been really valuable for my growth and development.
I appreciate that. We represent coaches of all sports, but regardless of what sport you coach, any of our individuals, members, NCAA women coaching graduates could do a similar thing within their own program.
Absolutely.
You were the only female in this year's Final Four, and we know a woman has never won the national championship. Do you think about that and consider yourself a trailblazer?
It's an interesting question. I don't think about it till somebody asks me or brings it up, because I still feel very young in this profession, obviously, as being a head coach. Nobody talked about it. Nobody talked about me or it when I was an assistant. So now that I'm a head coach, it's still new for me. It's been 4 seasons. And so what I think about is loving volleyball and the passion I have for volleyball and what it's done for me, and living my passion and inspiring others. And I am a female, and I'm coaching female student athletes, and I want them to believe in themselves, and I want them to understand and know that if they want something, they can go and get it. And if that includes winning a national championship, I want to help them accomplish that. And of course, that's my goal as well. So I think about it, but maybe not as much as some people think, because it's still new to me. And I think that there will be a female head coach winning a national championship absolutely in the next 5 to 10 years.
Perfect. I would love to see that as well. Do you have advice? And as we know, in the sport of volleyball, and you did it yourself, you went overseas and then you came back over here. Do you have advice for helping women stay in the game as a coach to possibly pursue a career in coaching?
Yeah, I think there's always a level and a place for women that want to coach, whether it's high school level and being limited to your involvement, volunteering somewhere, being involved with club, or D3, D2, D1. If you're passionate about volleyball and about teaching and about influencing young women's lives, I think it's worth it to work hard to find a way to make it work. So I think if you want something bad enough, you'll find a way. And I think you have to figure out what it is you exactly want, and then you figure out how to make it work. But there's always a place, and it might not be, somebody's dream situation or the best situation, but if they're passionate about coaching, and I think that the way women can influence other young women is just priceless. And I think it's a really special, bond, and a special thing that happens when we're able to inspire them, whether through something we did and we're able to give them, our advice or opinion. I think there's absolutely a place for everybody. And I'd say just to work hard to make it happen, and find the people that are going to allow them to make it work, and be around those type of people that are going to build them up and let them have that opportunity.
Yeah. And finding the right level that's a good fit for their lifestyle and wherever they are in their period of life, personally and professionally.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the same thing for playing. Women, there's opportunities all over the country. You just have to find the right fit. It's obviously the same thing for coaching in the profession.
Yeah. And I want to talk for a second here before we begin our wrap up. You were a great assistant coach for so many years. And let's just say Beth Lanier is near and dear to our hearts here at WeCOACH. What advice do you have for assistant coaches? Like, what makes a great assistant coach in your eyes?
Yeah. I think being loyal is huge. Being loyal to, the coach who gave you the opportunity or is giving you the opportunity. And I pride myself in that, and be where you are and be present where you are and give your best, and always having your head coaches back. I think believing in their vision is super important. That's the only way you're going to be able to work together as a staff. So as an assistant, being able to have that mindset and be able to really do whatever the head coach needs, and to be willing. And I think 2 things I would say for assistant coaches. I think, if they are humble and they're hungry, they're going to have success. They're going to be able to do whatever they want as an assistant. Humble enough, to let go of their ego and to be able to do whatever it is the team needs of them. And sometimes it's not a glorious thing to have to set up the nets or take the balls or do whatever is asked of you. And if you're hungry to learn and do more, I think you're going to have success. And I think that as an assistant, I always tried to suggest and follow. And I think that's just a good reminder for assistant coaches. Your job is to suggest to the head coach and to other assistants and people what your opinion is, and then follow their
Those
lead.
are some fantastic nuggets right there. I hope all of our coaches are taking notes. So for fun, we end every episode with what I like to call quick hitters. As a volleyball coach, you definitely know quick hitters. I will rapidly fire some questions at you. You're going to come back at me with the first thing that comes to mind.
Oh boy. Okay.
It's not going to be difficult. Best part about being a twin.
Okay. Oh man. The bond we have together, the experiences we get to
high
share.
five right there. Favorite book?
Leadership and Self-Deception, Getting Out of the Box.
Favorite thing to do on an off day?
Man, depends on the time of year. Snowboard, go to the beach, lay out, play beach volleyball.
Those are all fantastic. Do you have any match day superstitions or rituals?
Brushing and flossing my teeth.
Hygiene, oral hygiene is so important. What keeps you awake at night?
Trying to decide what I'm going to do the next day for exercise.
Oh, that's so funny. Okay. That's a wrap. See, you nailed it. You nailed it. That's a wrap.
Oh, whew, that was easy.
Thank you so much for being a guest on our WeCOACH podcast. I appreciate all your nuggets and your time and what you continue to do and show women that we can be successful in the sport of volleyball.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. And I just think you guys are great. Thank you for what you do for women and coaching. And thank you very much.
Thanks so much. I'm excited to see what comes of BYU volleyball this spring.
Thank you very much.
Conversations from the world of women's sports. This is Wisp Sports Radio.
Thanks for listening to today's show with Heather Olmstead. We would love to hear your thoughts and feedback. Please follow us and share your comments on Twitter at WeCOACH and at Wisp Sports, or on Facebook you can find us at WeCOACH Sports and at Wisp Sports. The show notes for today's episode can be found on our show page at wispsports.com. Make sure to subscribe to Wisp Sports in your podcast player to catch each new episode dropping every other Thursday. It's March Madness. Be sure to find us at the upcoming NCAA Women's Final Four in Tampa, Florida. Until next time, all sports, one voice, WeCOACH. Final Four in Tampa, Florida. Until next time, all sports, one voice, WeCOACH.